Good morning and welcome back to another episode of Business Beyond the Beach. This is our Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce talk show in collaboration with our friends here at Miami Community Newspapers. My name is Brittnie Bassant. I'm the president and CEO of the Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce. And today I have with me Madeline Romanello from Compass Group. Hi, Madeline.
Hi, Brittnie. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Wonderful. TGIF.
Oh my goodness, we love it, right? We love
Doesn't
Fridays.
mean too much for Realty, but
Right, absolutely. So I want to get right into it. I want to get started. I hear a little bit of an accent, so
Yes.
I know that you're not from here. You were
Yes.
born and raised over the pond.
Over the pond, yes. So a little. My real father was Greek. My mom's German. So it was a popular combination because there was a lot of Greeks in Germany back in the
Greek
60s.
and German.
Yeah.
What a
so-
combination.
Anyway, so I grew up actually first 2 years in Greece when I was little, and then went back to Germany. And then when I was like 10, my mom met. My parents got divorced, and mom met my stepdad, who's English. So and then we moved to England and went to university there. And then I came to the States for my first job.
So let's go back to England. Stay in England for a little bit. Let's stay in Europe.
Yeah.
We're gonna eventually make our way to Miami Beach, but we're gonna start on the shores across the pond on the shores of Europe. So you were in London
Mhm.
and you did a degree in history
Yes.
at Cambridge,
Yes.
which is so cool.
Thank you.
Super cool. But to go from a degree in history at Cambridge to real estate, I mean, let's talk
Yes.
a little bit about that.
Well, I think the universities in England, especially at that time, I mean, I matriculated 1986. The only business thing you could really take was economics, which I actually started with. I started with economics, but I was bored out of my brain. So the only
So you went to
thing-
history.
Well, no, but that was the only thing I could switch
Right.
to without losing a year, and I didn't want to lose that year. So actually loved it. I mean, I still love it. I'm still, I read, obviously history books and different things all the time. But to be honest, I mean, what history teaches you is you have to be able to juggle a lot of information. Your paper that you're writing for that week, it's like, here's 10 books from Karl Marx, and you're like, how you say, have to read them and then answer the essay that's set by the professor. So you have to analyze a lot of information, the same as in real estate. You have to be able to write persuasively, the same as negotiating in real estate, whether written or verbal. You have to keep a lot of facts in your head, and you have to make a lot of connections and so on. So it's really, which you have to do with real estate. There's so many moving parts, and you have to see kind of through all the paperwork, which is history. So it really wasn't as crazy as I initially thought either. But I do. My dad had said, become a CPA. I was like, oh, that's so boring. And then, and I tried it. I went to Ernst and Vinny. They were back then. It's Ernst and Young now, I think. And I did an internship, but it just wasn't for me. But I do regret not going in a more financial direction after the history.
Interesting. It's so funny because I asked the question. I 100% asked it, how do you connect history to real estate? And that's such a unique and interesting answer. Thank you so much for drawing that tie.
Yeah, no. So those universities, they still had a lot of humanist programs, and even my sister, she also went to Cambridge. She studied, I think, English and Italian, and she's a partner at KMPG and worked for Christie's and all over the world, Foster's. So yes, I don't. There's really no connection apart from knowing how to analyze and assess information and problems.
Right. I mean, it's still a very unique tie. Okay, so we're done with University at Cambridge, and then you decide to move to the U.S. Or was there like a stint in between? Or walk me through from London to the States, and then to ultimately Miami Beach.
So my landlady at Cambridge, who used to hang out with she went to art school with Roger Waters from the Pink Floyd and everything.
Okay,
she was very
that's just normal
cool
stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, they were from Cambridge, the Pink Floyd. So anyway,
that's what I was saying. You went to school at Cambridge. It's so cool to me.
Yeah.
But anyways, continue.
And, so she was cool, and she's like, "Oh, you would do great in America. You're more an American type of person, and more outspoken and this and that. You would really like it." So there's a J1 visa that you can get as a student And you can apply, there's different things. For example, I applied to Sundance Film Institute to see if I could get, a summer internship because I was interested in that. They didn't take me. So then, other people so Edgartown Yacht Club in Martha's Vineyard, which was, Jackie O belonged to that, Walter Cronkite. It was like really old school yacht club. They took me, so I was a receptionist, had so much fun over the summer. Of course, loved the States, made a lot of friends. And then when I went back, good friend of the family, because obviously I was bilingual, they were looking to expand their company into Chicago. They made huge equipment for printing and stuff like that, like printing yellow pages and like big catalogs back in the day when we still had all that, right? And so he says, do you want a job? And when I graduated, 89 was a recession after the stock market crash and everything like that. So I'm like, sure, why not? So they trained me in Germany for a few months, and then I went to Chicago and February 1st, 1990. And I worked for them in their in their US subsidiary in Chicago.
And you obviously just didn't like the cold. So you're like, move me down to Florida. I want to go to Miami. It's beautiful and sunny and paradise.
I was actually lucky. I think the winters in Chicago weren't as bad as I thought then, but the length, that was how long it can be. I was kind of lucky though. And then in Chicago and the Midwest is just so happy when there's, summer and so many things to do. No, I bumped into a friend of mine from Cambridge, and she had been down to Miami, and she had said, you should go and check it out. So I did, and believe it or not, bumped into some guys that I knew from Cambridge. And
the Cambridge connection is strong.
Yeah, I know. It was really I just bumped into them literally on Fort Lauderdale Beach. They were dating. One guy was dating a woman that had a friend that had a company in Miami, and she was looking for someone to help, be kind of similar what I had done in Chicago. And so she offered me a job, and that was in the export business. So at this time we were exporting food, beer, drinks, candy, a lot of candy, to Isla San Andreas in Colombia, and also to the U.S. Virgin Islands. So those were our main markets, And so I was working in the warehouse. So back then, learning how to do all the customs work and loading containers. And there was a lot of that in Miami in the 90s. There was all these intermediate companies, because American companies, like Colombia was still very dangerous to probably establish. So we represent Del Monte, Welch's, Nabisco, things like that. So it was good.
And eventually, your career took you into real estate, and you've worked with some of the top brokerage firms, and you've been with Douglas Elliman, you've been with One Sotheby's, you're now with Compass. What a career, and it's still going. And you've been consistently ranked as a top producer, and it's a competitive market. It's an extremely competitive market. So what do you think is the success or the secret to the success that you've had?
Oh gosh.
Well, you can't give it away, right? Because it won't be a secret anymore.
No, in real estate, it's not. I think definitely you have to have a passion for it, and for the people and the research, and being able to juggle a lot of different things and play different roles. And you need to. The more it's getting, as prices have risen here, definitely transactions are getting even more hairy or complicated, now. I think that you have to just be organized, keep in touch with your clients, follow up with your clients. I get mostly referrals. Of course, I've advertised as well, but still, I would say 90% of my business is by referring from either friends, sphere of influence, obviously networking, like with the chamber and other organizations, but mainly referrals. And so keeping in touch and keeping your clients happy, and also being, keeping them informed of what's going on. To see, you have to, obviously doing good marketing, analyze when you have a listing, you've got to really be on top of it, make sure you're there to show it, make sure, also and maintain your reputation, because that's an important thing, I think, for most top producers. They have a good reputation. They are liked in the community, because it's really important how realtors work together for the client.
So you've actually run your own brokerage firm at one point, right? Yeah. And you've been doing this for some time now. Yes. And like we mentioned before, you're extremely successful. You're a top producer. You've run your own brokerage firm. You've trained agents in the market. So talk a little bit about what running your own firm was like and some of the lessons that you learned, which I think you touched on in the prior answer. But then also, what do you think separates a great agent from just a good agent? Like, what's the difference there?
Okay. Yeah, that was a tough one. No, running my own, I always wanted to have my own business since I was like 12, 13 years old. And my dad and we would invest in penny stocks and stuff like that. So I was always interested in business. So actually it was my husband at the time, who had suggested you should go into real estate in 1998. He suggested it because the export business wasn't doing so good. So he got my license, went to Century 21, and then you realized, oh, you don't just go walk in somewhere, sit there, and people give you business. You got to cold call. You got to be, present. You got to do floor time back in the day. And I'm like, I can do this. I walked in and go, I was a top producer making like back then $60,000, right? Which was like 1999 was a big deal for someone first in the business, right? But I was already had doubled, whatever I was making. I said, I can do this on my own. So I took the broker license and then just opened my own firm, which was Arcadia Real Estate in Miami Beach, 71st and Collins. And that was probably not the smartest thing I did, because I should have trained more with other top producing agents. I think the best way, if you want to get into real estate, unless you've got a huge sphere, there's people that they were attorneys. They've got a massive sphere, CPAs, they were whatever they were doing before it comes over. But if you're just starting out and this is a new thing for you, I would wish I had trained under like a top producer and worked for them for like 3 years before opening, because you're like, oh, I got my broker's license. Oh, I've got my own company. Oh, I don't have all the answers because I don't have a broker anymore. I'm the broker. So that was, but I've always been like doing courses, doing all the certifications. If I don't have the answer, I go and find it, very proactive in that way. And I think as far as being a great agent, I think is to really problem solve up front with whatever the transaction is. Really, really interview the client extensively, because you need to really know many things in order to make it a good transaction for them and solve all the logistics and problems. Just really caring about the client and really being there for them and answering all the questions. I'm probably my style is more like, right, I'm going to make sure you're protected every way, that I think makes a great agent.
That's absolutely, that's so insightful. Thank you so much. Like being one step ahead, but also really just caring about the person that you're working with and wanting to make sure that they're
and keeping your integrity and never cutting corners and telling the clients the pros and the cons. There's in your career, you definitely come where like, oh God, do I really need
the
to
transparency? The transparency is important, though. It's important because it builds that trust, and without that trust, especially when
it's
you're doing
always going to bite you in the on the way back.
It's the biggest investment that someone's probably ever going to make in their life is a real estate purchase, and so
then they read a lot of things too, and if they're not a more sophisticated investor or but even if you bought a house 10 years ago, who remembers all the things that were involved, right?
So do you want to talk a little bit about trends in the market? Touch on it briefly. Not too in depth, but just sort of where do you see the market going?
Well, what we're still seeing a really active luxury market. and seen some reports that it's slowing a little bit, etc. But I think there's also not enough, inventory. There's a lack of that. And then in the, more, let's say, the lower point market, we really have two markets. You got houses that need work, or anything that needs work. A lot of today's buyers, they don't want to engage. So you have to be kind of priced here, and you have to either make it attractive, for someone to go in, because everybody knows how high construction costs and how difficult, and every part of Miami-Dade is under construction. So you can, see. So, and then of course, so I think, and if you want to buy, renovate, and flip a house, it's got to be good finishes if you want, not investor level finishes, really good homeowner finishes if you want to get full price. I mean, like top price. Buyers are really paying attention, and they're not. I went through the 2005-2006 boom, and back then I was said everybody's just putting lipstick on a pig, and everybody's buying it because it has granite countertops, that was luxury. And like, oh my God, I can't believe people fall for this, right? And so, but that's really what it was. And then it was like when the recession came, you saw all the bad construction, all the leaking houses, all the mold. And, so it was, a lot happening. I think today's buyer is much more savvy,
no, it's
much
all about
more.
the details.
It's about the details. They want a safe house. They want impact windows. They want, they're not going to go like, oh, I only have 2 years left on the roof. No, yeah. So
much
I think
less willing to compromise, do you think?
I think less willing to compromise because they're all paying top dollar. They're paying.
Even with the market, even with the inventory being low?
That's more now in the higher end. We've increased, other inventories gotten up there.
Okay, good.
They ensure, I mean, the houses, I think, are around 6-7 months inventory, which is balanced. Condos are, depending on the condo, 8 months to 24 months.
Jeez.
Yeah, so that you got to watch out for. But again, that was something you're probably going to find more condos between 500,000 to 2 million than 3 million and above. So that's been my recent experience. So
Very cool. Okay, so we need to start wrapping up a little bit, but I'm going to ask you a couple of personal questions now. So the first one is just recently, I mean, you've done so much, you are going to continue to do a ton. But what's a recent, maybe not, it doesn't have to be recent, but what's a personal or professional accomplishment that you're very proud of?
Personal
or professional. It could be either or.
Gosh, one's too personal, so I can't talk about that. But
we're all friends here.
No. Professional. I think that I'm really proud of the fact that I've navigated so many different markets. Come out of the recession. That was really hard for many people, because a lot of in my age group too, you really lost everything, and it lasted 4 or 5 years, and you had a hustle, etc. I think I'm very proud of how I'm always able to shift to where the business is at. I mean, last year was not an easy year either. And then you've got to be creative about
and innovative.
Yeah. Exactly. And so that I'm always, still, being able to close about 30% since COVID. I mean, since 2022, 30% of agents have gone out of the business.
Wow.
So that's always happens when you've got a
tough market. Yeah.
Well, no, because there was a good market, and then everyone's there.
Well, everyone got into real estate
and the level. So now, the people, and also, I mean, gosh, with the technology, apart from all the amazing technology that Compass, of course, has to make our life easier. But now, really digging into AI and how that's going to affect you, and but also keeping it real, because every house description is going to sound the same if you go on ChatGPT. But you really now have to learn this other thing. So I think I said, right, I've got to really dedicate myself to learning that. The same way you had to learn video not that long ago, And I mean,
staying up with an ever evolving business world, I think is
yes. I think that still doing that and feeling good, because you can get discouraged for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So not when you're discouraged, but when you're unwinding and you're
Yes.
relaxing after this busy lifestyle that you lead, what's your go-to spot in Miami Beach that you love that just gives you peace, or it's just like a favorite? It could
Spot
be
or spa?
either. It could be anything, Madeline. It could be a spot. It could be a spa. It could be a restaurant. It could be a park. It could be an open space. But that place that you go to unwind, that like hidden secret spot.
No, not a secret spot. I always like, it's amazing when you're like, you actually go on Lincoln Road and meet someone for lunch, and then you're relaxing on Lincoln Road and seeing the people and
watching
walking. Yeah. And actually maybe taking a stroll going, oh my God, this is so nice.
Yes.
And I must say that is like, then you get the resort feel of Miami Beach, and that makes me so, Milos is always
when you live and work in such a dynamic, vibrant, global city, you tend to take it for granted. You forget that this is a global destination, and you are 1,000% right. Like when you go to Lincoln Road, and whether you're having a coffee or an ice cream, or you guys can figure out what I do on Lincoln Road, or a meal, and you experience being a part of that energy with our tourists who we love and visitors who come here, and it reminds you that Miami Beach is a global destination, a global city.
No, definitely. And I mean, I think Milos, I mean, the beach, not as much as before. I actually go to the beach like 87th, but that's something you got to really go, what am I doing? Why am I not doing more of this?
Exactly. We sometimes take it for granted, and we have to take advantage of it instead of taking it for granted. The fact that we live and work in absolute paradise. So last question for you. If you could go back in time and give advice to your younger self, I know you would say do a little bit more finance stuff over at Cambridge, but what advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh, gosh. If I was, as a woman, learn to network early on in life. I mean, that they don't teach you that at Cambridge. They don't teach you that at high school. I think maybe the States does more, because I think a lot of people in the States, they have to do community service and stuff. Like I went to a convent school.
I went to convent school too, yeah.
Well, I never had to do community service,
correct.
Like, which is kind of weird, right? Considering it's for the church.
Yes.
And so learn to network like a man. I mean, I'm sorry, not to be sexist either way, but it's like men do it so naturally. And I think women still, and if you're young, they still have to learn more of that. So I think I didn't start reading a lot of this stuff till in my late 20s, early 30s. And you go, gosh, why aren't they teaching, how to influence, what was it, Dale Carnegie? Why aren't they teaching this at high school, know? And so that the networking and keeping up, I mean, I wish I'd kept more in touch with Cambridge connections, at alumni network and everything like that.
Yeah.
Yes,
absolutely. Well, the one thing that we didn't touch on is that Madeline is actually a very active and valued member of our board of governors, and she serves on our executive board. And she just gave the chamber a huge shout out, because that is what we do over at the Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce. We are your conduit to network with the city, to get to know the players in Miami Beach. Your network is your net worth, and we hear that all the time. So it's very, very, very important.
Well, it makes you a better realtor too, because I have those connections, having been also on the transportation board, and like knowing how to navigate the cities. And I think one of the things that the chamber taught me is actually to get involved with a nonprofit and sharing that. And so that was a whole world the chamber opened up, apart from the whole networking thing.
We're gonna have to bring Madeline back on and really go into. She's like, no. Once is enough. Go into her chamber involvement, but I'm
happy to talk about it, because there's so many things that chamber really has helped people with. I think.
Well, that's what we're here to do. We're here at the Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce. We are here to help connect you. We always say that our core pillars are business to business, business to government, business to community. We do it through networking, advocacy, philanthropy, and we put leadership through everything that we do. So, Madeline, it's been an absolute pleasure to sit down and chat with you and learn a little bit more about your journey. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching this episode of Business Beyond the Beach. And stay tuned for another episode next week.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you.